You know it's been said Raiders never give up, they're dead when the troops of young Gruden squarely. The troops of young Gruden squarely.
You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to pillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans. Tune in every week on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Call in and leave a message to be played on air at 408-909-PJFF. This episode brought to you by Creative Media Design Studio. Check them out at creativemediamonterey.com. It's time to pillage another podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Stapler. What's good, Che?
Oh, man. Another day. An exciting day. There's a lot of stuff going on today, man.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. But, not too exciting for Raider fans.
Pretty quiet.
It's pretty quiet on our home front, man.
Do something.
Do something. That's what I say, right? Hey, let's make some moves. Let's shock some people. But I also understand not getting too crazy.
Sure.
Well,
really, what do we have to work with at this point?
Right.
Like, who are you willing to trade away?
Yeah.
And what kind of value do they really have on the trade market?
Exactly.
And that said, there's actually been a lot of sort of, I guess I'll call them underwhelming trades, being you got, high value players going for low value trades.
Picks.
Yeah, picks.
Yeah, some 5th round picks.
Makes you wish like we had a 5th round pick.
Right.
It was actually Marshawn Lynch right now. That's our 5th round pick.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
Hard to argue with that too, though, depending on what side of the fence you're on.
Think about what you would get in the 5th round. Does it equal Marshawn Lynch?
That's a good point.
Just saying.
A lot of people will fight you over that take.
Hey, man. I don't fancy myself a fighter, but I also don't get run up on like that. So come with it.
Well, let's see. If they want to fight you, we'll find out if they're really about that action. Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Alden Smith released, officially cut from the Oakland Raiders, and he has turned himself in. He's now in custody.
You know what I thought, man? I was like, really, Alden? Right after we just went on air and we're like, hey, well, hopefully things work out and hopefully, and then I think you even went as far as to say, like, we've never heard of him do anything severely bad to anybody else. It's always been to himself.
Yeah.
And then this comes out, and I was like,
then he goes and bites his fiance.
God damn,
yeah, we spent like a good half hour on that too.
Yeah, man.
I caught a little bit of flack for that. I was like, why'd you spend so much time on Alden? Well, because we were trying to get him arrested. That's why, obviously.
Apparently, man. Apparently, that's what comes out of our discussions about certain players.
Well, anyway, we won't spend any more time on that right now. This is Quick Hits.
Yes.
But I did spend some time talking to Dieter Kurtenbach about that in the interview. He's our guest tonight, so shout out to Dieter. They actually went to school together.
Oh.
So stay tuned. Later in the show, you'll hear that, and definitely worth listening to. Raiders have also let John Kondo walk. The last Al Davis player. So that era is officially over.
It is, man. It is. It's officially over. I can't say that I'm sad to see him go.
No.
I think he served his purpose for far too long.
Was it like 12 years? Something like that? Yeah.
To be a guy that's such a specialized and maybe underused in some ways. Yeah. It's a little too long.
Great hair. He has great hair. JFB actually called in with a take on Kondo's hair. You got to stay tuned and hear what kind of nickname he's giving him.
I got to hear that.
So I'm not going to spoil that. I want you to.
So what, is he retiring or what?
That's called a hook, by the way, in radio. I give you just enough to keep you interested.
So, yeah, you hooked me. I want to hear it.
Is he retiring? I don't know. I would.
Is somebody else going to be like, oh, we need a John Kondo on this team?
I think if I was him, the only other team I would sign for or sign with is the Niners. And that was the sound of phones going out the window once again. And the only reason why I say that is, you're 12 years in. How many years you got left? Are you really going to uproot everything you have to go to another team for like 2 years?
Right.
So that's why I say that.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe San Francisco, maybe San Diego or the Rams. The LA Chargers or the LA Rams. I don't know. That would be my only options if I was John Kondo. But I'm actually kind of sad to see him go. But again, how many more years?
Well, because you won't have the joke anymore.
It's true. It's true.
You won't have the joke anymore. The joke of having John Kondo on the team for 12 years is gone. It's not there no more. Man.
Maybe the longest tenured long snapper in the NFL. When they said long snapper, they meant like long.
Like you're gonna be around for a long time.
I snap you a long time. I'm gonna get sued for that. That's okay. I make no money doing this. So yeah, Kondo, he's out. Raiders are apparently the last stop on the Mo Wilkerson tour.
Okay.
Last I heard, he was in Green Bay, so he'd be making his rounds.
And what's the weather like in Green Bay right now?
Probably not fantastic.
And when does he get to Oakland?
I don't know.
Because we're having a little bit of a warm streak.
Yeah.
That might be what puts him over. He's like, I'm just over there freezing my ass off. I get to Oakland. It's kind of nice out here.
Yeah.
We're close to the ocean. You know, it's Cali.
Yeah. I think he might actually be here tomorrow.
Okay.
Could be a Reggie Friday thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sold on Wilkerson. You know, I think that what we need is a two-gap guy. Dieter mentioned that too. I think we need someone that can occupy a little more space there in the middle.
Right.
We already got Eddie Vanderdoes, an athletic guy. So I don't know. At the price tag, I don't know that I'm sold on Wilkerson. His name's come up in the past, and I wasn't sold on him.
Right.
So I think, you know, with the little wiggle room that we have, unless we do a lot of this cap wizardry that Rory Anderson, who was a great show actually last week, mentioned, unless we do some of that, which I think a lot of what he said is feasible and it's doable. I just don't know that we do that. You know, what he suggested.
Right.
It'll probably be somewhere in the middle of what he suggested and what we've done in the past. But I don't know. I'm gonna pass on Wilkerson.
Yeah, and you know what? Even more so because of some of the talent that's coming out in the draft. There's some talent there. There's definitely something to work with in the draft, man. I was watching the combine, and there's some pretty, you know, there's some guys that stood out, and they're not all gonna go in the first 2 rounds. Right. They're gonna drop. So
yeah, some of those guys are gonna drop. There. Chance that Hurst drops after the medical conditions. That sounds like a Reggie special to me. So, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. Gerald McCoy, that's easy for me to say.
The real McCoy?
The real McCoy. Trade rumors to Oakland officially dead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's dried up. So I actually had a chance to speak to Stephen Michaels this morning. We had mentioned him on the show last week. He was talking about the Jarvis Landry trade. I believe that's what we were talking about.
Right.
And there was another name that was not being released at that time that he said Oakland was in on. That name actually confirmed for me was Gerald McCoy at that time. So, follow Stephen Michaels. I think he's like one of the hidden gems on Raiders Twitter village. And I say he's hidden. He's got like, you know, double-digit 1,000 followers. But
more than us.
Yeah, but I think he flies under a lot of people's radar, and you know, check him out. He's a good follow. You know, if you're looking for insider tips and things that are coming out hot, he's a guy you want to follow. He self-professed not a Raiders insider, but he occasionally gets these nuggets, so it's worth it. If you're on Twitter, you're looking for nuggets, so follow Stephen Michaels. So that's dead. That would have at DT. That would have been a nice pickup. But again, who do we send to Tampa?
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. You got to wonder what they're asking.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, if it was in the air or there was rumors about it, they were negotiating. So what were they asking for in return?
Right.
It had to have been something that Reggie wasn't willing to give.
Got to be thorough. Got to wash behind your Buccaneers. Shout out to my cousin Dallas. He wanted me to say that. DeMarco Murray has been released. Che, should Oakland be interested?
No.
Hot take. Hot.
Yo, man. Honestly, man, I saw that and I was like, well, Tennessee finally realized that they were effing up.
Yeah.
Like Henry should have been starting the last 2-3 seasons. Man.
Yeah.
And they kept this duel back with DeMarco as the feature. Why? It never made sense to me. Even though, you know, he came from Dallas and he had some good seasons there, I never really felt like he was the better back out of the two.
Yeah.
And after last season, even less, right? And we were talking about this on the phone. I don't think that he's better than Marshawn.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he's an upgrade. So why would we go there?
No, I mean, last year was his first year under 1,000 yards. And again, a lot of that is because, you know, they switched more to Derrick Henry heavy offense. But he's also lost a little bit of his burst last year. We saw that.
He had a couple injuries. He had a few injuries too. Yeah. He's now 30. Like, do you really want to? He's just another stopgap guy. Do you really want to go there? You know, I'd rather just keep Marshawn on this team. Yeah.
But I know there's already probably a few members of Raider Nation out there that are like, oh, we need to get DeMarco Murray. But here's the thing about Raider Nation, and no disrespect, but a player gets released and it's like, sign that guy! And it's like, so-and-so's shopping. Trade for that guy! Sexy highlight video comes out. Draft that guy! It's like everybody.
Yeah.
Anyone.
It's about right.
Right?
It's about right.
Yeah.
I've been there. Just not with this one.
No.
I can't run with this one, man.
No. So it's not happening.
No.
And with all that said, trade season is officially on and popping.
It's a full go, man.
It's full blown.
Yeah. I kept getting alerts on my phone.
Do you?
And I was like, really? Really?
Do any of them say Raiders on them?
Really? None of them said Raiders.
Not a damn one.
And I was like, really? Of course.
Really,
of course.
though.
That makes a lot of sense.
Really, though, as
Yeah.
Ice Cube once said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not shocked, man. Not shocked.
No.
This is the Reggie way.
It's the Reggie way. Not a lot of ammo, and when you're, as of right now, the official cap number came out at about 15 mil, so it's lower than we thought. We were projecting about 17 after the 9 million
Right.
rookie budgeting, blah blah blah. We're about 50 million. Like I said, we can get creative and make more space. But when you're up against a cap like that, one of the best ways to get better is through the draft, because you're getting yourself value players that are
Right.
hopefully day one starters, at least two of them. That's what I'm hoping for.
Cross your fingers.
So that's where we're going, and you're not going to mortgage that future by trading away those picks for guys that are going to bring on a heavy duty salary. So it's really about maximizing what you have and what you have to work with. And right now, we don't have a whole lot to work with until we start cutting more players not named John Kondo. Right?
Right.
How much did John Kondo save us? I believe he was signed with a $14 million a year contract, $75 million signing bonus this year. No, that's not what the numbers were. I think we saved about $1 million right there. So, until a guy
did they take away his Jack in the Box lifetime meal card?
is that a thing?
I think that was a thing for him. Man.
Really?
I think that was a signing bonus.
I don't know. I think they gave him that flag. Yeah.
He got 1 meal a day from Jack in the Box for free.
Very well coiffeured,
Raiders.
though. Very well coiffeured.
Oh, he had that luxurious hair.
Yeah. Luxurious. Yeah. So, it's our quick hit segment. It's pretty quick.
Hey, that's what it's called, right? Segment's called Quick Hits, people.
Quick.
Trying to get through them quick.
So, Dieter Kurtenbach, it's spelled exactly how it sounds,
Exactly.
by the way.
So don't ask stupid questions.
He's a busy guy. He currently covers all Bay Area sports team for the Mercury News.
Right.
So I had to pre-record this interview. He's at the Warriors game right now. He's probably courtside, sitting there along with the apricot, Mark Davis. Mark the apricot Davis. If you don't know what I'm talking about. And Chucky. With his moon boots on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what those things are, man.
I've told you, man. They're those them Spice Adams Air Monarchs, man.
Hey, Raider Nation, if you don't know Spice Adams, go find him on social media. He's pretty funny.
That dude cracks me up, man.
I'm trying to get him on the show. It's probably not going to happen, but
go over there and tell him that the Pillaging podcast,
trying to holler at you.
Yeah, Pillaging podcast is trying to get you on, man.
What you say now, Chuck?
What you say now, Chuck?
So, check him out. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, apricot Mark Davis, just go search Mark Davis Gruden Warriors game. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Quite the sight to see, but at least we know he's got a different palette in his wardrobe other than just white on white, because it's not a good color for you, Mark.
He's breaking out of his father's shell, man.
And you know what? Apricot also not a good color for you, Mark.
But he's tried.
Yeah.
You got to fail first. You got to see what works, what doesn't. He found out what didn't work.
The haircut, that complexion, that body type, walking around looking like a damn nectarine.
But he couldn't stray too far away from the white. He had the white pants on.
He did have the white pants on. What else are you gonna wear with the apricot shirt?
I don't know.
I've
never been there, man. So
I've never had the apricot conundrum. So, anyways, like I said, pre-recorded segment, so I had a chance to sit down with Dieter. Got a nice long fat interview with my man Kurtenbach. If you're not following him on Twitter, make sure you follow him. He's actually a pretty funny guy. And check him out. Without further ado, Dieter Kurtenbach. right, we're joined this week by Dieter Kurtenbach from the Mercury News. Dieter, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
That's how I start off most of my interviews. Yeah, Dieter Kurtenbach. You nailed it.
So it's not Dieter.
No, it's Peter with a D in front of it and an extra letter for good measure.
Are you currently on a diet?
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Gotcha. I'm on a diet as well.
I'm always on a diet, man. I've in the words of Orlando Brown, I've been fat my whole life, so I'm always on a diet.
Dieter is on a diet of hot takes and roasting folks on Twitter when he needs to. Only when he needs to.
Only when. But the hot takes come regardless of whether they're necessary or not.
So speaking of eating, what's your go-to lunch spot in the Bay Area? You're a beat writer, so I know you're always on the move. What's your go-to spot?
That's tough. I mean, if I can find an Ike's sandwiches nearby, it's really hard for me to resist a good Ike's sandwiches. I live in Oakland, so there's 100 different spots that I like to hit up. I got a bar by me near Jack London Square called Seawolf that I'm in way more often than maybe I should be. So if I'm out and about and I see an Ike's, you can bet that I'll hit it up. And if I'm just at home and I need to get out of the office for a minute, the home office, I'll walk on down to Seawolf, and usually they treat me pretty good. And they got great wings there.
Yeah, Ike's is tremendous. I'm all about the jalapeno poppers on the sandwich.
Nice. Yeah, it's hard. I try to mix it up. I try not to get the same thing twice, but they have I think it's the Madison Bumgarner, which is like tri-tip and horseradish sauce, or like the Patrick Marlowe is really good. I love the horseradish sauce there. It's really dynamite.
Fire. Absolutely fire. Yeah, check out Ike's. I live near San Jose. There's a bunch of Ike's all over San Jose too.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, they customize their sandwiches to local sports figures' names, which is always exciting.
Yeah, it's a little. It gives you a little local flavor. Like I try to hit up like the mom and pop spots, but like that's obviously a Bay Area one. Even though when I was living in LA for a stretch, they had one in Westwood, like right by my house. So that always reminded me of back here in the Bay Area, and yeah, they certainly don't lack for local flavor. So big ups to Ike's.
Yeah. Plus, when people ask you, "What'd you eat for lunch?" you could be like, "I ate Madison Bumgarner." What'd you have?
Yeah, not too many guys eating Madison Bumgarner these days. I haven't seen too many people ordering it as of late, but maybe when he gets back on the right track, those will start flying off the shelf.
Yeah, I had one a few months ago. My shoulder hurt for about 2 weeks. So
it was weird that you fell off that dirt bike immediately after. I didn't know that you were either a dirt biker or that you didn't have great balance. But here we are.
Like you said, the horseradish, it's intoxicating.
It's really good, man. It's really good. Never turning down horseradish. That's my official slogan.
There you go. That's catchy. Speaking of slogans and whatnot, where can people find you? Where's Dieter to be found on the internet?
Yeah, the Mercury News website, which I hear is frequently visited, and would love it if you guys visited more. And at D Kurtenbach, DKURTENBACH on Twitter, which is where most of my nonsense goes out. If anyone's interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, Mercury News. I think I've heard of it. Small fledgling independent upstart site.
It feels like it sometimes, baby.
not quite the media giant as Pillaging just for fun, but you guys are going to get there. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Well, slowly and surely. This is what this is all about. I'm trying to build up the brand.
Right. So are we, and we're doing so by not paying our writers and we're doing very minimal advertising. So far, it's working well for us.
Sounds like the Merc.
Ouch. Roasting. I told you guys. Always roasting. So follow him on Twitter. He's definitely an entertaining follow on Twitter. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a fairly young guy. You're writing for the Merc now. How did you get there? What's your come up story?
Yeah, long winding journey. I'm a Chicagoan by birth, and I guess I still hold on to that a little bit. Went to school at the University of Missouri, and then it just sort of jumped around the country after that. Was in South Florida covering everything in Miami, South Florida sports for 3-4 years. It's been so long, I can't remember how actually long it was. Then came out here to the Bay Area and was working for KMBR and got their website started up, and got out before the bankruptcy hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
Was a national columnist at Fox Sports, which is the real leap in status there. And when Fox decided to not so politely get rid of all of us because we were making too much money, came back to the Bay Area. I loved it when I was living here in Oakland, and just wanted to get back. And luckily, the Merc, for a lot of reasons that I think everyone who follows Bay Area media knows, was looking for writers. And for one thing led to another, and here I am. I got the greatest job in the world, man. And I've kind of lucked into each and every one of them. I think people who read me will agree that I've lucked into each and every one of them. But so long as they're paying me to write my opinions and to talk to people about things that maybe they don't want to talk about, I'm feeling good about it all. So we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah. You are busy. Did you say you wrote for Inside the Bay Area? Did you say that?
No. Yeah,
okay.
no. I was at KMBR and then
KMBR.
Fox. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it got about the same readership. But that was an interesting experience there at the radio station. They've fallen on some hard times, but it was great to it was a great conduit to get me out here and get me into this marketplace. And I love it here. I mean, this is I never thought that I would feel it's very chip on the shoulder, south side of Chicago guy.
Mm-hmm.
Felt very similar. The Bay Area felt very similar to home for me. This is absolutely my home now. I was so thrilled when I was able to come back, even in not so tremendous circumstances, and obviously getting to lay down some roots here is just beyond the pale exciting for me. And now that I'm pulling my head up a little bit from football season and getting into this kind of quiet period before baseball really starts in earnest and the Warriors playoff season starts and we get the draft and the real nitty gritty of free agency, I'm just realizing just how good I got it. So hopefully I'm still thinking this thing the same time next year. But this is the dream.
So just wanted to, before we really get into the meat of this, I wanted to ask you if maybe you had your favorite roast. What was your favorite roast, or what was the one that got you into most heat?
There's a lot of them. Like, I'm pretty sure I can't go to Australia. Me and the city of Cleveland do not get along.
Okay.
That's to say the least. Oklahoma City had it out for me a couple of months ago. I would argue that I probably make more people angry than I make them happy, which isn't great for the self-esteem, but luckily I've been practicing low self-esteem my entire life, so I'm getting used to it at this juncture professionally. I think the one that shocked me the most was, I don't know if you remember Jared Hain, but he was that rugby player turned 49ers running back, and just that terrible experiment. Yeah. And I was writing columns for KMBR then, and I noted that, Reggie Bush had a bunch of injuries and Carlos Hyde had a bunch of injuries, and the 49ers kept putting Jared Hain in uniform, and I couldn't understand why, because he wasn't the team's best punt returner. He wasn't their best kick returner. That was Bruce Ellington on both counts. And they were going to only suit up two running backs. So at one game, it was like they were going to have an injured Reggie Bush or a guy in Jared Hain who couldn't. No one had ever seen him run between the tackles. Like, no one had ever seen him run the damn ball. I think the one time he ran it in the preseason, he fumbled it. And they had Mike Davis, who played pretty well for the Seahawks, I guess 2 years later, our last year. And I said, why are they suiting up Hain? Like, just put Hain on the bench and do Mike Davis. Like, you're not missing anything. And people in Australia, it was a great day for traffic, but, like, people in Australia lost their damn minds. And I was on, like, a bunch of Australian radio shows at, like, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was something else. I will never get over that. And, like, the amount of vitriol that I got. And sure enough, like, a week later, they put him on the practice squad, and then it was all my fault again. I will never get over the Jared Hain thing. Like, I've deserved it a couple of times. Like, when you play with the fire takes, you're going to get burned every now and again. And when the Cavs went down 3-1 in 2016 to the Warriors, I might have put the final nail in their coffin one step too early, but 4-3.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I'll take the hit on that. They only did the most improbable thing I've ever seen in sports. Like, I'll take the L. And Cleveland being Cleveland had to carry that chip on their shoulder. I get it. I understand that. I will never understand the Australian thing. Perhaps it's just the ignorance of not knowing the game of football, because I thought it was a very reasoned season take, and alas, that's the one that seems to have gotten me the most in trouble. But luckily it's a very long flight, and I don't really have any interest in going to Australia anytime soon.
Well, you definitely hold a lot of power in Australia, it sounds like. And you're not the first roaster to work for the Mercury News. There was a man that came before you. His name won't be mentioned here.
Okay.
But he's done quite well for himself. So keep it up. Be yourself. I think one of the things I like about you is how much personality you actually inject into your takes. And speaking of roasting getting you into trouble, I myself am actually banned from your website. So maybe you can help me out with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that my ban is coming here pretty soon, but I will make sure that we you shoot me an email. I'll make sure that we take care of all of that on the back end. So
I like it.
I mean, listen, we are not in a position to be banning people from the website. Let's just put it that we're doing very well. There's no problems, but like I see what's going on in the industry. We need a big overarching tent. Let's get everybody who's been banned back in. I know that banning is cool in some circles, but I do not mute. I do not mute, and I do not block on Twitter. So I'm very much for removing any and all prohibitions.
I like that. He's a real man. He's a real man, Raider Nation.
Yeah, that's me, real man.
Well, you are an eater, so that's on the checklist.
Yep.
Yeah, I was banned from your website, and as a result of it, I started my own website, and now we're here. So,
well, that's at least something good came of it. At the same time, maybe we can retroact. I want you to keep your website. I want you to keep doing the stuff that you're doing. At the same time, maybe we can go back and right or wrong. I don't know what you did. Now, here's the thing: when I go through and I ask the people who handle this thing, hey, what actually happened here to ban our man from the website? I'm going to find out. So maybe I'll change my tune once I know the actual transgression.
Possibly.
But for now, I'm enjoying my time. I think you pump my tires enough here. I'm willing to stick my neck out.
I like it. I'm going to send you the full rundown of that too as soon as we get off the air here. And yeah, you got to hear my side of the story as well. But
I believe it.
I trust your judgment, however. So let's get into it. You had already kind of mentioned you're a busy guy. You've been quiet on the Raiders front for a while now, and that's basically because you're covering all Bay Area sports team. You're getting ready for the upcoming MLB season. A's, Giants. You cover the Sharks. You cover the Golden State Warriors. As I understand, you are in the parking lot of Oracle Arena right now.
I'm staring at the Coliseum, so I'm in a Raiders mood. But as soon as I go to the other side of this parking lot, I'll be in a Warriors mood. So we'll see. We'll see if I can make that transition, or if I can tap into this Raiders spirit that I see sitting under the Coliseum bleachers.
Do me a favor, when you get out of your car, just give a nice hearty Raiders as you're walking in.
If anyone sees me do that, I am so screwed. So I'm probably not going to. But as a friend to all Bay Area teams, whether they know it or not, I might do it in my head for you.
Okay, that counts.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of going through your timeline, and I've been reading your stuff here for a while. So you recently put out your post-combine mock draft for both the Raiders and the Niners. So in that mock, you have Tremaine Edmonds going to the Niners. You got Roquan Smith going to the Raiders. Now, I think Roquan's speedy. I think he's tenacious, but I think he's more of a coverage linebacker. He gets stood up by blockers in the rush game, in the run defense, and the pass rush. So I'm not completely sold on Roquan Smith, but I do see the phenom that is Roquan Smith. So convince me, Dieter. Convince me why Roquan Smith is the best fit for the Oakland Raiders at number 10 in this draft.
I can convince Raiders fans by using their own argument. Last year, I got so many people telling me that the Raiders screwed up by not taking Reuben Foster. And let's remove all of the off-the-field BS that Reuben Foster had. Let's just take the football player. And I think that Raiders fans can be honest, even though it's a 49ers player, and say that Reuben Foster has all the talent and all the makings of a linebacker who can be one of the best in the NFL, an all-pro caliber player. Reuben Foster has a lot of the same same knocks that Roquan Smith is getting against him right now. Now, they're not the same player necessarily, but they're similar. There's a lot of similarities there. And when you see a guy like Roquan Smith just blowing stuff up on every single week in the SEC, I just have a hard time overlooking it. I think that this is one of those prospects that if he wasn't a consensus top 10 caliber player, and I don't know where he falls. Obviously, I have him at number 10 to the Raiders in my mock draft. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen between now and the actual draft. This is content for content's sake, getting people primed and understanding these prospects that I've been watching all year a little bit better. When I think this is a nitpicking thing. A lot of these top 10 guys, you're only looking for the small details that sort of convince you that they're not that good. Whereas any guy who's in that 15 and below, and that's all the way to the 7th round, you're trying to justify moving them up and how much better they are than everyone. They're all sleepers. Everybody in the top 10, they're a bust, and everyone under that is a sleeper. So I think that's sort of the state that we're in right now when analyzing players. Every player has a fault. There is no perfect player. Not even Saquon Barkley is perfect. Yeah. Roquan Smith was the best player in the SEC last year. I firmly believe that. I thought he was a viable Heisman contender. He is sideline to sideline. He's excellent in the run game, I think. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, you think he's a coverage linebacker. I don't know what more the Raiders could possibly want. Now, I do think he has all-pro potential, but I think he has a very high floor as well. He does get stood up a little bit, but this guy attacks gaps. This guy has athleticism coming out the ears, and he's a tough son of a bitch. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Yes, there's going to be knocks, but the Raiders are a team that's built to win right now. And I think with that high floor, with a still very high ceiling, Roquan Smith is just a perfect fit for what this Raiders team needs right now. He can make an impact for this Raiders team in 2018, and I think he's going to make a big impact 2019, 2020, 2021. Those are contention years. The Raiders can't – I think that they would love to have a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, but Tremaine Edmonds is still a project. He has a higher ceiling, but that floor – I think he still has a pretty high floor because of his pedigree, because he was pretty damn good at Virginia Tech, but that floor just isn't as high as Roquan Smith. And I think that the Raiders would be foolhardy not to take a linebacker with this top 10 pick in a damn good linebacker class. Now, ideally, the Raiders can trade down a couple spots, let somebody who wants a quarterback in there, get some more draft capital, and still get Roquan. That would be the ideal. But if you got him sitting there at 10 and you don't feel like, you know, the situation is working out perfectly, don't overthink it. I think a lot of people are overthinking it right now. I think that there's going to be a lot of people overthinking it for the next 2 months. Roquan Smith's a player, man. The tape doesn't lie. There's a lot of stuff that isn't perfect, but, man, the amount of plays that he blows up, I just don't know how you can think that he's not going to make an impact at the linebacker position in the NFL next year, and that's exactly what the Raiders need.
All right, and hold on one second. I'm just – boom, done. Just ordered my Roquan Smith jersey. Thank you. It's a great job. Great job.
We'll see what happens, man, because I mean, he's the guy who seems to be falling the most, and there's no evidence that he should be falling. I think that this is just people taking something for granted a little bit, and there's a lot of flavors of the week, a lot of flavors of the month even, and Roquan Smith is just there. You know what he is. We've known what he is since October and November. And this is just a fleeting. It's a weird industry. I've done the draft now for a couple of years. It's just a really weird echo chamber of nonsense. And just I think when it's all said and done, Roquan Smith is absolutely a top 10 talent. The tape doesn't lie, and the Raiders could do a lot worse. And there's a lot of other players that I think the Raiders should consider, but I just feel like Roquan's going to be there, which I'm shocked about. I thought he was a top 5 player.
He was, yeah.
And I still think he is. I think that the only reason he's getting knocked out of that top 5 is because of positional needs. Like Saquon Barkley's number 1, Bradley Chubb's number 2. I don't know how you feel about the quarterbacks, but the quarterback positional scarcity is going to push a lot of guys into that top 10. Right. And then Quentin Nelson's another guy. But if I had to pick my 3-4 best players in the draft, it's Roquan, Quentin Nelson, Chubb, and Saquon Barkley. And so when you have then 7 different, 4 or 5 different quarterbacks that can get into the mix there in the top 10, when you have an uber prospect like Tremaine Edmonds, it mixes things up. And I think that the convolutedness of everything going on in that top 10 with, teams like Buffalo are probably going to try to get into the top 5 to get a quarterback. Mm-hmm. All of that only stands to benefit the Raiders. Not only, even I guess it would benefit them more if they won that coin toss, but I think that they're in a really good position right now to get a guy who, and their most important thing that they can look at is get a guy who can help us right now, even if we're going to sacrifice a couple of years down the line, because this team and this division is winnable right now. And they're not going to spend a lot of money. They're going to spend some, but not a lot with the extensions for Cooper and Matt coming up. So getting a guy who can give you both potential and immediate presence, huge. Roquan Smith is my guy for the Raiders. That would be the dream pick.
That's great. I like that take, too. All the guys in the top 10 are a bust. Everyone below that's a sleeper. That is so damn accurate.
But that's how it goes, man. That's how this industry goes. Every week you have to have a new one because everyone's insatiable because the NFL draft is the one thing that everyone can get super excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Free agency, not every fan base can get excited about because it's a zero-sum game in many senses, and not every team has money to spend. And it seems like everybody else, the draft, everybody's excited because there's nothing on the board yet, right? All these guys are untapped potential. Every one of them can be an all-pro. We don't know. And so everyone taps into that excitement. Everyone taps into that enthusiasm. And so it just creates this sort of ridiculous, no information regurgitation out into the masses because it just gets mad clicks. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm immune from it. I understand 100% the business side of this thing, and I'm playing into the business side of this thing a little bit too. But I thought when the 49ers went 0-9, I started taking a couple of hours every week and really talking to a lot of draft guys, talking to college coaches, talking to high school coaches who I've always found really helpful because they kind of view it from a less tainted viewpoint. And just taking time to look at these prospects, thinking that the 49ers are going to have a really high pick. And I wasted a lot of time on quarterbacks. But Roquan Smith was a guy who, everyone I talked to is just like, this guy's the real deal. And a lot of the same guys who were big on Reuben Foster last year, big on Roquan Smith from the football standpoint only. And by all accounts, Roquan's a class act kid. I hate that phrase. I can't believe I used it. But by all accounts, Roquan's a good kid. He's not going to have any of the problems that Reuben had. It's overthinking it, and that's kind of the name of the game right now. But I wouldn't put too much stock into the comings and goings and the ups and downs of it all. I mean, the tape doesn't lie, and the combine. Roquan had a nice combine. I'm not sure what more you need from the guy.
So now that you've kind of convinced me on that pick, and it's probably going to change tomorrow,
right?
but. Convince me why he gets past San Francisco at number 9.
Yeah, because San Francisco doesn't. I don't see him necessarily as a great will option. I think that a lot of teams will look at him as a guy that they can put a little weight on and play middle.
Okay.
But he could play will. I think that the more pressing need for the 49ers at this juncture is a pass rusher.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Edmonds comes into play because he's so versatile. You can turn him into a situational pass rusher who can also stay on the field. It's kind of like what Bruce Irvin could provide in theory inside of the Raiders' defensive scheme. I mean, technically he's listed as a Sam linebacker, but he's not really on the field for coverage or anything like that. He's a dedicated pass rusher in sort of a two-man front with Khalil Mack and him. I think that having Tremaine Edmonds out there, he's a true three-down linebacker, which is certainly interesting to the Niners, whereas you get a guy like a will linebacker if you're going to put Roquan Smith as a will linebacker, I don't know if you can keep him on the field for 3 downs, whereas a guy like Reuben Foster, and who knows how many games Reuben Foster plays or if he's even on this 49ers team, that could be, that could throw some wrenches into this whole thing. And again, a lot of things are going to change, but Roquan Smith, I don't know if he can be a 3-down guy. He doesn't provide that pass rushing element, whereas, Tremaine Edmonds does, or at least he could. And I think that possibility is a lot more enticing. Plus, the 49ers have a bunch of money to spend, and I think that they're going to go out and spend some of it on a linebacker because it's a pretty good and I think relatively cheap linebacker free agent class, whereas the Raiders don't really have that opportunity to do the same thing. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders went somewhere else, but the way I just see it, it's just like, oh man, Roquan's still on the board. That's incredible. You get that card in really fast if the circumstances that I've outlined come to pass.
Cool. Looking for you to go full Kanye and rush the podium when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely linebackers a need for Oakland, but that defense has a lot of holes in it. The defensive line is somewhat anemic. We need to get help for Khalil Mack there. The secondary, a lot of issues right now, a lot of question marks. So outside of the first round, how does Oakland address some of these needs on defense? Is it in free agency or is it in the draft? It's both. Give me a couple names out there that are intriguing to you.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see sort of how the Raiders play their hand at number 10, because I do think a lot of teams are going to try to be moving up for quarterbacks, and that could give them draft capital. A guy that I would find interesting, and it's just interesting at this juncture, is Alan Branch, who was just let go by the Patriots. Obviously, DT is a huge need. I don't know what Eddie Vanderdose's situation is just off the top of my head, but you really can't count on him. Trayvon Hester and Jelly, you don't know. You don't know who's going to be in the middle of that line. A guy like Alan Branch, who didn't get a lot of run there for the Patriots at the end of the season, and particularly in the Super Bowl, is just a guy who can play two-gap. And that's huge. Vita Vea is a guy that I know a lot of Raiders fans are kind of excited about. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if Roquan's not on the board, the Raiders taking him at number 10.
Right.
But, in this DT class, I don't think Dontari Poe is I think he's a one-gap player. And I think what the Raiders really need is someone who can just command two gaps, because Khalil Mack's going to get double-teamed. Yeah. And Bruce Irvin, we saw he was persona non grata for a pretty good stretch of time last year. And I just don't know how Paul Gunther's defense is going to integrate both of those guys. If they want, Bruce Irvin, if he does come back to be a hand-on-the-ground pass rusher, what they're going to do with Khalil Mack. There's a lot of possibilities and a lot of options, and frankly, we don't really have a lot of answers about anything yet. At the same time, this DT class outside of Vea, I don't think that Harrison Phillips has the ability to be a two-gap guy. I don't really know what Harrison Phillips out of Stanford is. Mm-hmm. Now, if he's sitting there, sitting pretty at pick 40-something in round 2, I can hear a convincing argument. But it's not a great DT class at the top level. There's a lot of depth guys, but I haven't really gotten into too much of their scouting reports. There hasn't been anyone that's bounced off the page at me as, oh, man, this guy can make an impact. What the Raiders really have liked in the past is athleticism from the middle. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense, and I'm pro that. There's no Aaron Donalds available, though. I just there's not even a guy who you can even say, oh, that's a poor man's Aaron Donald. Mm-hmm. So maybe the Raiders, and again, we'll have to see with Gunther, maybe the Raiders go the other way and just decide, let's get someone who can just clog up the middle. And let's get somebody who can just take on one of those guys who maybe would have been part of a Khalil Mack triple team. Let's just have somebody else command it. And then when Vanderdose comes back, he does have that athleticism. Now he doesn't have to play such a traditional DT role. Now he can get after the quarterback a little bit more. He can play that 3 technique that he was so good at when he was playing at UCLA. But until we know what this defense is going to look like, and right now the only thing we really know is that it's most likely going to be a 4-3-quarter scheme, which is what Gunther ran in Cincinnati. Until we sort of see it, and frankly, until the Raiders make their picks, we're not going to have a great idea of what it is they're looking for from each position. Yeah. I just don't see anybody out there right now that just is a no-brainer. It's really hard from an outsider's perspective to sort of draw out a roadmap for what the Raiders do in the middle, though I would argue it's just as big of an issue as linebacker, depending on how you feel about like Markel Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mo Wilkerson doesn't do it for you?
Yeah, I don't know if Mo Wilkerson is going to be available at the cost, and frankly, he's just another one-gap guy. True. And I mean, it would be great if you could convince him to do it. I really think that they would be well served, considering how they have Irvin, considering Mack and their versatility, quote unquote. Certainly with Mack, he can do whatever the hell he wants. But like Bruce Irvin's sort of limitations and playing linebacker but not linebacker, I can't foresee him putting a hand on the ground too often next year as a really good scheme fit. So I would just want a guy who can take on 2 and allow 3 other guys to get after the quarterback, and that would be how I would view it. But we'll see. I mean, if they go after Wilkerson, if he can be found cheap, I'm not against it. But I do feel like Mo Wilkerson is a fairly overrated player, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to lean that direction myself, considering what the money is right now, what the price tag is. So while we're on the topic of the draft, we had a caller call in, 303 Raider. He had 2 questions for you. So I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to let him ask you that question, and I'll be back for your response.
Kenny, Che, it's 303 Raider, calling from beautiful, sunny, and warm Denver, Colorado. I have a few questions for Dieter. Dieter, question number 1. What do you think will be the biggest difference in our draft this year with John Gruden's influence? Normally, the last few years with Reggie McKenzie, I feel we've reached for injured secondary players, whether it was Carl Joseph or DJ Hayden a few years ago. And then with the running back position and the linebacker position, Reggie would never really address that position until the later rounds. Do you think with Gruden's influence, maybe we go after one of these top running backs? How do you think that looks like? Second thing is do you see, and again, Reggie normally does not trade any draft picks at all. Those are very valuable to him. Do you think, we're seeing a ton of trades right now, especially with the Rams, the Eagles being active and aggressive. With John Gruden now, I'm assuming that he's leading, final decision maker with the draft. Do you think that we make any trades? Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the podcast, and I do enjoy reading your material on the East Bay Times and San Jose Mercury News.com. Have a great night. 303 is out.
Yeah, with Gruden, I think it will be really interesting. The entire John Gruden situation is very enigmatic at this moment. We don't really know what John Gruden we're getting. Are we getting John Gruden who has spent the last decade in a strip mall in Tampa breaking down film and concocting these great broad ideas and is going to change the NFL, or are we going to get the John Gruden who at the Combine said he wants to throw it back to 1998? If we get the John Gruden that I know and understand, we're going to probably, I wouldn't imagine that the project aspects are going to change because John Gruden trusts veterans. He wants veterans who fit a system, and that system is a classic West Coast offense. And specifically with defense, he just wants guys who can play, the traditional 4-3. He's going to be looking for maybe not so much hybrid players or putting a lot of safeties on the field and calling them a different position. I think he's going to go for, girth in the middle, speed and athleticism out wide, and he's really going to rely on safeties.
How dare you drop girth on my podcast?
Well, that's what he's loved before. I mean, and
be careful. Be careful.
Hey, okay. So now that I've dropped the girth bomb, I think that he would still want projects because I do think that the Raiders are going to be more active looking for veteran guys who are sort of on a second or third, probably third contract to sort of fill starter holes and then have guys that they could bring up through the ranks. They won't fear those sort of projects. As for the trade stuff, the Raiders are just in a really precarious spot when it comes to the salary cap. It's a very top-heavy salary cap team. They're in a really good position salary cap-wise. They have flexibility. They can really make a lot of things happen. But with bringing back guys like Crabtree, bringing back guys like Marshawn Lynch, bringing back a Bruce Irvin, I just don't see a lot of flexibility for them there. Those are their sort of mid-tier guys. And those are the kind of guys who end up getting traded. And when you look at maybe there's a couple of guys out on the market right now, and there's a couple of names that are being thrown around. I think Tyrann Mathieu is an interesting name. It looks like Arizona wants to cut him.
Yeah.
But they're looking for him to take a pay cut first. I think T.J. Carey did a really nice job, but he's not as good as Tyrann Mathieu. And T.J. Carey can play the outside, where Tyrann Mathieu couldn't. It will be interesting to see if the Raiders get into the mix for that. And frankly, it's really hard to read the trade value of it. Aqib Talib was traded to the Rams a couple hours before we got on the horn here, and that would have been a really good option for the Raiders. And for a fifth-round draft pick, that makes all the sense in the world. Now, obviously, putting Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree in the same locker room might not be a great idea. Maybe that's why the Raiders stayed out of it, but they weren't in on Marcus Peters, who was given away for not a lot, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
They weren't in for Crabtree, and for Talib, and I can totally understand why politically that wouldn't be the best case. Marcus Peters obviously brought some issues into the Raiders locker room last year when him and Marshawn sort of took each other's side. Maybe you don't want to exacerbate those divisions that sort of already exist, and again, you don't want to have Talib and Crabtree in the same locker room, but the Raiders haven't seemed too active on that front thus far. That could change if a good opportunity comes about, but right now I just have a hard time seeing it. I think that the Raiders feel really comfortable with where they're at in this moment with their roster, and I think that they're going to have the ability to go out and fill some holes through free agency because they're in a decent position with the salary cap without going out and signing a really big-name guy. And they they have to love their position in the draft, even though it was an earned position. The Raiders obviously underperformed last year.
Yeah.
To go 6-10, not great, but you got that 10th pick. You're still probably the odds-on favorite. I don't know how you feel about the Chargers, but I would still feel like you're the odds-on favorite to win the West, even if it is a close West. I would just think that they would want to not mess around with a good thing that they got going right now. And there's no names out there that really strike me other than Matthew, who, again, is really just upgrading a position that they're pretty darn good in, and they have glaring holes elsewhere that I just don't see being filled by trade right now.
So you kind of mentioned something there, and I wanted to go there. I only have a couple more questions for you. I know you got to get off the horn here soon. You posted your base win totals for the NFC West today. What do you got for the AFC West? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I think it's really tough. I mean, if the Chargers have a really good draft, I feel like the Chargers and the Raiders are both at 9 wins right now, and that's looking optimistically at both of them. Mm-hmm. I think Kansas City's at 7 wins. Listen, I think even Raiders fans can acknowledge that Pat Mahomes looked pretty awesome in that game he played. It's pretty exciting. That game should have scared the crap out of Raiders fans. At the same time, I maintain that air raid quarterbacks have a very long track record of not being successful. Now, if they're going to be successful for any coach, it's going to be Andy Reid. He's so open-minded. He wants to try to do collegiate things, but that defense is going to take a step back no matter what anyone says. Marcus Peters isn't there. Marcus Peters was that defense for long stretches of last year.
Yes.
I don't know how they just replaced that overnight. So that defense is losing 2-3 wins in my mind without Marcus Peters. And now they got a new quarterback. I mean, there's some good players out there, but, man, I don't like the wide receiver core for a rookie quarterback. That offensive line is still good, but it showed some holes last year. I'm just not up on the Chiefs right now. I would put it at 7, and I think that's being generous. And we'll have to see. Obviously, free agency and the draft change it all. And then you look at the Broncos. I mean, if they get Kirk Cousins, maybe they're a 7-win team. If they don't, man, I just have a really hard time looking at them and thinking that they're going to win more than 4 or 5 games. So it could be really tight. I mean, it could be a division in 2 months. I could be saying every team looks like an 8-8 team.
Right.
And that wouldn't shock me in the least bit. But right now, I think that the Raiders and the Chargers are out ahead. You just can't trust the Chargers to ever win you damn games. Like, they just don't come through.
Yeah.
So
the chokers.
And the Raiders and the Raiders have a lot of positivity. I don't know if Phillip Rivers is going to be as good as he was last year. I don't know if the Chargers are going to be able to fill the DT hole that they have. And they're a team that should certainly be looking for a defensive tackle as well, because if you get a big time DT on that Chargers defensive line,
problems.
All of a sudden Ingram and Bosa, holy crap.
Yeah.
They also need they need safety help, but they have a pretty darn good team. I like what the Chargers are doing. I just don't trust them. But the thing is, I have no idea what this Raiders team is.
Yeah.
I can look at last year's team and listen. Last year I went in and I said the Raiders are going to win 12 games, so they're going to win 5. There is no in between with this team.
Yeah.
And I was one off, and that's fine. I'm certainly not happy about the Raiders not doing well. It's not good for business. But this year I look at them and I go, who knows? I mean, I think that their floor is higher than 5.
Okay.
I think that last year's coaching. And last year, it was coaching ineptitude across the board.
Mm-hmm.
My track record on Derek Carr, I think, is fairly well established now that I'm a Derek Carr skeptic. And you look at Gruden. I believe in Paul Guenther. I think he's a darn good defensive coordinator, and he's done a lot with a little in Cincinnati for a long time. I think that he's going to get the most out of that defense, which is more than can be said for last year. But I have no idea whatsoever what Derek Carr is going to look like in a John Gruden offense, because I have no idea what a John Gruden offense is anymore. If I go back to when he was in Tampa, if I go into what he said over the last 10 years on ESPN, I'm not optimistic about Derek Carr. Now, if John Gruden comes in with a stylized offense built for Derek Carr, well then, holy crap, let's have some fun, because Derek Carr, when he is in the right system, which we saw in 2016, is prodigious. Not very accurate. There's a lot of warts, but holy crap, what an arm! I mean, this is a guy that you would build in a lab to run a spread offense. And if you can bring in a lot of the spread concepts that the NFL is now, integrating more and more, and if John Gruden can somehow find a way to convince Derek Carr to be a spread quarterback in a West Coast offense system, kind of in the way that Sean McVay was able to do it with Jared Goff last year, I feel optimistic, even though I do think that Goff's offense was pretty much just give the ball to Todd Gurley, which the Raiders can't really do. But until I see these two work together at training camp, I just have to pick right down the middle, because if these two guys click and there's something special going on, we all know Derek Carr's talent is as high as anybody in the NFL, and that makes this Raiders team a 12-win team. But if it doesn't work, I mean, we're looking at Connor Cook in Week 13 because Gruden's pretty combustible. So I don't know what it is. Right now, I just want to play it right down the middle. I know that you're going to get a solid sort of, win 4 games, lose 4 games effort from Paul Gunther's defense with the talent it has on it right now. And I think that's way better than what you got last year. Mm-hmm. But right now we're in a win 4, lose 4, and just a total, we're in the dark 100% with this Raiders offense. And I can see it going both ways. I've run through 1,000 scenarios in my mind. I see it going every which way. So right now it's win 4, lose 4 with that side of the ball too. And, that puts you at 8-8, which, in this division, there are definitely worse places to be. And I reserve the right to increase that once I see what the hell these guys are working with.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have them at about 9-7 myself. Lastly, before you get up out of here, it's about 15 minutes to 7. I know you got the Warriors game tonight. Recently, and we talked about this last week, and then the news broke, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I read your article. I thought it was interesting. You recently published an article regarding Aldon Smith and how you stopped feeling sorry for him a long time ago. What was the tipping point for you? And if you can recall it, if not, I have it right here. What was the quote that your Missouri coach said about him that sort of still rings true today?
Yeah, and I still can't remember. I think it was Andy Hill.
Okay.
But I didn't want to put the quote down, and it doesn't really matter who it was. It was a Missouri coach, and I spent a lot of time talking to Aldon Smith when we were both at the University of Missouri, and I just found him an incredibly intriguing person. He's just a different cat, and that was a positive thing at the time. Got to know him a little bit, not to the point where I can diagnose, the alcoholism and all the demons that he's facing right now, but he was certainly eager to please at all costs. I don't know if I shared the anecdote in that column, but he was playing on a broken leg at Missouri in 2010, and I just thought it was the most incredible thing. He had this game against Iowa State that just blew my mind, and he's playing it on a broken leg. And I keep going, it's like, Aldon, and so I'm asking people around, I'm like, what's the most incredible athletic thing you've seen Aldon Smith ever do? And multiple players and coaches told me, well, he can do a standing backflip, which is way more difficult than standing front flip. Because it's like, there's a point on the standing backflip where it's like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And you look at him, he's 6'5", 260 pounds, and he's thick. He's a big, strong guy. I mean, he's the prototype. And you just go, there's no way that's going to happen. I bring it up to him along with my colleagues at the time, who we were all just wowed by the concept. And he swore that he would go outside on a snowy day in Missouri, icy. Missouri's always icy because it's never that cold, but it's never that warm. Uh-huh. And he would do it in a walking boot. And we had to physically restrain him. That was my best block in college, was restraining Aldon Smith from doing a standing backflip in a walking boot. And it was that took something. That was weird. I mean, that's a weird thing to do, because he wasn't being like, I'll show you. There's no ego about it. It was totally like, they asked, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this performance thing now. And I asked a coach about it, and I go, it was kind of worrying, kind of looking for some kudos from the Coach Hill, and it's kind of worrying. He goes, Aldon's a pit bull puppy, where he's sweet and he's lovable and he wants everyone. If you train him right, he's kind of this clay-like figure. If you train him right, he's going to be easy to get along with, and everyone will look at him and be scared, but they'll be totally wrong. And right now we feel like he's still in that puppy phase, but if he ever figures out his bite, he's screwed. And I thought at that time what that meant was, he could just be he could be a bad SOB out there, and he can do it. But what he was really mentioning, the bite wasn't so much the his ability to put it on the field. It was sort of the things that he would do. It was him biting himself in a way, and putting himself in danger. And if he got into a wrong crowd, it would just bring out all of those, it would bring out that bark, and eventually it would get the bite. And I think the turning point was last year. I mean, he's had now 2 domestic violence things, more or less in a calendar year, and I feel I don't feel bad for him anymore, because I know there are a lot of people in his corner. I know that the NFL rules are screwed up and that they don't allow for the Raiders who, honestly, I don't think the Raiders did him wrong in any way, though I don't know to what extent they tried to work around the rules or anything like that. I'm not putting the blame on the Raiders, much as I'm not putting the blame really on the 49ers. But because the NFL rules prohibit a lot of conversation and things like that, there's a quote from, and I cannot remember where it's from, so you'll have to forgive me, but his dad, who is now on total media lockdown, I've been trying to call his dad for the last week, trying to talk to him, and I talked to him a little bit when we were in college, mentioned that if Alden ever got in with the wrong people, it would be a real problem. And I'm curious as to when his dad, when the people around him felt like he got in with the wrong people. And the fact that he wasn't able to have positive influences or negative influences, we don't really know what it would be from the Raiders, concerns me. But the fact that, Alden has money, he had a lot of people rooting for him, even when he was ostracized, and he just couldn't get right. And I've seen the guy right. And the fact that he couldn't get right and he continued to let these demons do it, I get it and I feel for him, but it shouldn't have to come to these grand crescendos for him to seek out help. He shouldn't have to get arrested to seek out help. And I don't want to victim blame, but when he's making other people victims because of his demons, it makes it difficult to defend him anymore. And I felt like I held out for a long time because I knew sort of the innocence of Alden Smith, and I was always rooting from him from afar. And just for him to, fail time and time and time again, I don't know at what point I'm going to be, at what point am I the sucker in this entire thing? And I think it was this time last year that he did it. And I was totally shocked that the Raiders gave him another go around this year. And they didn't have to pay him or anything like that. It was sort of a futures contract thing. But when he got into this latest thing and he's biting his fiance and then he's, drunk driving away after 2 bottles of tequila, and it's just like, how many times can we hear the same story? If it's not that, it's something else. If it's not, these alcohol issues are extreme, but they're not new. And it seems like it's been a constant, and the Raiders just didn't need that association anymore. And by all accounts, it sounds like John Gruden was the one who just sort of pulled the trigger on that and said, we're done. This is a new time and a new era. And sometimes it takes fresh eyes to sort of not get taken for a fool anymore. Because Alden is so, I don't believe he's bipolar, but he acts in a way that's bipolar, where he can be this just, what an incredible guy, and he's shy and so easy to get along with, and just he's that puppy dog. And then he does stuff where it's like, man, like, I mean, there's messing up, and then there's the stuff that Alden's been doing, and it's like, man, I don't know how long you can justify it. And I think he takes people for a ride in that way. And John Gruden doesn't have any track record with them, and he's like, we're not getting taken for a ride anymore. I'm looking at the resume, and it says no.
And I think the common denominator there is the alcohol. So, and then I want to mention too, we had his back for a long time, but the NFL rules do not prohibit you from getting help yourself. So,
right. That's my kicker. Like the Raiders, at some point he has to be responsible for his own life, and he has to be responsible for his own career. And I think that he'll never play in the NFL again. And I don't know how many times he had to screw up and for people to go to bat for him to understand that he was using up strikes. And I don't know what strike, it's 7. I don't know how many, this is the longest at bat in baseball history here. I don't know how long it was going to take for him to go get serious help, the kind that he's getting by all accounts right now. Why it had to take this situation to do it. He's had nothing but time to get help. for 2 years now,
Yeah.
and maybe he's gotten it. But there's an anecdote that he tried to quit his football team a lot in high school, and I just have a feeling like that played itself out often when it came to him getting help for himself, and that's frustrating. It makes him a lost cause, and at a certain point, you're just getting taken for a ride by lost causes, and it sucks because, man, you want to talk about talent and potential, and I don't know if he certainly was never going to live up to the potential he had when he first showed up in San Francisco. I mean, he's had the most sacks through 30 games in the history of the NFL, and he almost broke the single-season sack record. Like, he was unbelievable, but he could have been useful, and he could have made himself a lot of money, and it's a tragedy, and I think it's a self-created tragedy for him. And
Absolutely.
I honestly wish I know where it went wrong, if I could pinpoint what when it changed for him. But at this point, we're so far past the point of return. Just sad.
You know what's sad is we have to end this interview now. That's tragedy. That's tragedy.
We'll do it again soon. Maybe once the draft or something, or free agency or something. Lord knows we got enough to talk about between now and the end of April. So anytime you want me on, I'm happy to come on. This has been fun.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. Thanks for the big, thick, girthy interview. Couldn't have asked for anything more. And maybe I'll catch you at an Ike's Sandwich Shop in the Bay Area here sometime soon. And don't forget, Unbanned. We got to talk about that. But thanks again, Dieter, for coming on. Follow him at D. Kurtenbach on Twitter. And, of course, read all of his stuff over at the Mercury News website. Appreciate it. You're welcome on the show anytime, Dieter.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All right, so that was Dieter Kurtenbach. Tremendous interview.
Yes.
You ain't heard the shit yet. But Che already knows the quality that goes into this work.
I know what comes out of this studio, man. I don't have to doubt it, bro.
Sorry for putting you on blast.
I don't have to doubt it, man.
You're not a doubter. That's one thing for sure. Mr. 14-2. Blasted you again.
You gotta keep that going, huh? Just watch when we go 14-2 next season.
That might happen. Maybe. No, Dieter has us at 9-7. That's his base win total for us, and I can't argue with that. He's got the Chargers there too.
That's fair.
And everybody else beneath us. But he did mention Patrick Mahomes, and those of you in Raider Nation that think, Casey's got the young quarterback now, it's going to be easy. Look back at that game last year. Like Dieter said, that should scare you. Hey, Mahomes, whether or not he translates to the NFL, because, we'll see. He came from a system that's not NFL system. But Andy Reid likes to experiment. They do a lot of odd things over there in KC, so it could work. And Mahomes can sling the ball, he could run. So it's not a foregone conclusion that they're just going to be some cellar dweller next year.
No.
But like you said, without Marcus Peters on that defense, and who else had exited that defense? Linebacker retired. I don't know, I'm blanking right now.
I'm blanking on that. I don't know. I can't think of it.
I don't know why I'm blanking on it. Anyway, that was the interview. We're not going to respond to it too much right now. Che hasn't heard the whole thing yet, and it was a long interview, so we're just going to let that breathe, and we're going to go to break right now.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll respond to your calls. A lot of calls this week. Want to thank the callers.
Yeah, we always got to thank the callers, man.
Yeah.
They keep this show going, man.
Hey, shout out to Homer. You came in with a call late. You had some questions for Dieter. Couldn't get those on. The interview was pre-recorded. I probably could have done a better job communicating that to y'all. But we appreciate the call in nonetheless. And anyways, without further ado, your calls. We'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ciao.
Peace.
Fellow pillagers, this is your boy Jen. Yeah, glad to get back in contact with y'all, man. I missed you. Kenny, Che, man, y'all doing your thing. Keep doing it. Need to call more often. But yeah, man, there's a bunch of stuff going on around the league right now. It's a fun time, a lot of anticipation. First, I want to say thank you to the service of John Kondo. He's a real Raider and always will be. Your boy Alden Smith, I kind of feel bad for him. I mean, don't get me wrong, he did this stuff to himself, but when you have addictions and mental illness, bro, the way to go about getting right is not doing it by yourself. So the NFL has a lot to look at on the way they deal with addiction and mental issues. Your boy Richard Sherman, if Al Davis was alive, I'm sure he'd be an Oakland Raider already. As soon as before free agency started, he'd have been an Oakland Raider. But I'm really praying that my boy Reggie McKenzie and John Gruden see that does not happen. I like Richard, but bro, come on now. We need some young talent. Keep going young at the cornerback. Maybe if Richard made the transition to play free safety, I don't know, maybe then. But even at that, I really don't want him. And your boy Mo Wilkerson, I do want now. If we could pull that off, that would change a lot. A lot of people are worried about his, attitude. But I'm like Al Davis on this one. As long as he does his job on Sunday, I'm good with it. Yeah, I'm really excited about John Gruden being back, bro. And bro Hams. Gent, when my brother was alive, he was a great Oakland Raider fan, bro. I wish you guys had a chance to get to know him. But he made a song about John Gruden that I need all the Raider fans in the world to learn eventually. And it goes like this, at least for the next 2 years anyway, and it goes like this. I ain't gonna use the melody, I'm gonna just give you the word. Yeah, the secretary hung up on me. I guess I was a little long-winded. But here go the words, but no melody. The words go, it's been said, Raiders never give up their dead. When the troops of young Gruden score early, and the troops of young Gruden scored early. Now here go the melody. It's been said, Raiders never give up their dead. When the troops of young Gruden score early, the troops of young Gruden score early. Now, me and my brother used to sing that song every time Rich Gannon and company used to score in the first quarter. And I plan to sing that with many Raider fans drinking rum this season. And if I'm not there to hear you sing it, I'm glad to hear it in spirit. Go Raiders.
303 again. What's up, Pillaging podcast crew and pillagers? My goodness, found out that we're broke today, huh? Well, every year it seems like Raider Nation dreams and dreams about making. I know we made a splash a few years ago, but that's because we had a lot of money. What are we going to do this year? Man, I'm going to pound this until it's eventually come to a conclusion. I don't see us keeping Lynch unless he takes a pay cut. There's no way. The top running back right now in the NFL makes $8 million. No way we're paying Lynch $6 for a 2-down running back who's 32 years old. I don't care, or going to be 32. I don't care if he was our most productive offensive player in the second half last year. Well, that's the problem. I think you're going to see a more spread-it out offense featuring Amari Cooper, and we need a running back that can catch the ball and make plays. So, very interesting to see all these trades, us not do anything. I mean, what a get would have been to get Keith Toledo. I'm pretty sure that Denver wouldn't want to trade him to us, but that salary at $19 million for 2 years is pretty reasonable. And he would come on our team, and he'd be the second best defender, top 5 player on the team. So, anyways, holding out hope that we, obviously improve this roster. But now, it seems like we have less money than we thought. Are we even going to keep any of our own guys that we want to keep? I guess who knows. It's going to be interesting to see this offseason play out with Gruden's influence. I guess we'll know early who's really in charge. 303 is out. Have a great week, Raider Nation.
Hey guys, this is Texas Raider out here in Houston, Texas. Big fan of you guys. New caller, new listener. I like what you guys are doing out there. Just want to say I'm ready for the draft. I'm ready for us to improve the team. What I'm looking for the first round at 10 is a linebacker or corner. I think we need to improve that defense for sure. Absolutely. Offense is fine. Everybody wants to talk about the tackle position. That's cool too. We can address that either in free agency or later on in the draft. I believe our primary needs are cornerback, linebacker, and then D-tackle. I think there's plenty of guys at the 10 spot where we can get my 5 main guys that I would like for us to see. 3 corners, 2 linebackers. Probably not going to be the most popular opinion, to be honest with you. But I've watched 6, 7 games, full film on each one of these dudes, and these are my top 5. It's going to be Isaiah Oliver, corner out of, I believe it's Colorado, and then Josh Jackson, obviously from Iowa. Mike Hughes from UCF, big fan of his as well. These are in order, by the way. And then my linebackers go Rashawn Evans and then Roquan Smith. Not a big Tremaine Edmonds fan. He's a freak athlete. Nobody can deny that. But I've seen him miss too many tackles, take too many bad angles for me to be okay with him taking him at 10. So the 2 linebackers, Rashawn Evans and Roquan Smith, similar guys. The reason I have Evans above Smith is solely due because I believe he's a bit more physical than Smith. He's played in a system that's going to be closer to a pro style. He's mature. He's disciplined, to say the least, whenever you're in that Alabama system. Those 5 guys I would like to see, one of those 5 guys, they're all going to be there as well, or possibly trade back and pick up one of those guys. In the second round, depending on what we get, I would like to see Jefferson from Texas, the linebacker, if he's available. If we take a corner in the first, if we take a linebacker in the first, I would like to see another guy from Alabama, Levi Wallace. Not very good in the run game. The dude can cover like the night. I believe he's a solid number 2 corner behind Darian Conley. As far as free agency goes, whatever, I wouldn't mind getting us a veteran at any of those 3 positions, including tackle. So a veteran right tackle or even a left tackle and move somebody to the right side would be nice. Veteran D-tackle, Mo Wilkerson sounds good. I'm not sure about character issues, although I have faith in John Gruden and his staff to do what's necessary as far as character-wise. I just want to see movement in the free agency. I want to see aggressiveness as well, not necessarily overspending, but spending just the right amount for the guys that can fit our team.
Hey there, Pillaging people. It's buddy JFB out here in New Mexico. On to chime in on the great John Kondo. No more John Kondo. End of an era. Sad to see him go. Kind of a fun little thing to always talk about, a meaningless position that, for whatever reason, the Raiders thought was incredibly meaningful. So he just paid this dude $1 zillion to long snap. But, you know, I dubbed him once John. He had the most killer hair, dude. That dude's hair. He had like feathered bangs, dude. He was amazing. And so I labeled him John Bon Condovi, which quite frankly I thought was some of my best work. So I'm kind of sad to see him go for that purpose as well. But when you break it down, I mean, his perfection, guy was money on the snaps. His longevity, he stuck around forever. His durability, his athleticism a little bit for his position was always kind of unique. His candor, he was always great with the media. His accessibility was always phenomenal. In the midst of everything going on, I thought he kind of made a point to be a little bit more patriotic and with the flag and such. Some people might not ride with that, but I did. So yeah, man, sad to see him go. There will never be another John Kondo.
And we're back. Yes, sir. So, pretty good callers. When I made that beat, I did not envision it being 10 minutes long. So that wore on you guys. I apologize, but I find it quite easy to listen to.
Oh yeah.
So off the top, shout out to Gent for calling in.
Shout out, man, for that wonderful song.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful thing.
Those of you that don't know, Gent and his brother, very, very, very close, very tremendous Raiders fans. Rest in peace to your brother Gent for a lot of great stories that you've managed to share with me, and appreciate everything. Appreciate everything you've passed on to me too. So good to hear from you. I like the song. I like the spirit. Really, you were the one telling me a long time ago that Gruden was coming back. And we had many heated discussions about that. And look, you ended up being right. So I got to give that one up to you. Yeah. So Raider in Texas Raider.
Yeah.
Called in, first time caller, short time listener. Sounds like we got a new fan. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
You threw out a lot of names.
Lots of names, man.
Isaiah Oliver, I know, is shooting up because of his combine performance. Big guy, 6'1", 190, length, physical, speed. Great showing in the combine. Right now, projected rounds 1 and 2. Kind of where I'm at is if we can get a corner in the second, I'll be real happy.
Yeah,
because that leaves running back for the third, and I'm hoping one of those guys in the batch of running backs this year falls to the third. So, but then he mentioned Rashaan Evans. So
he did. Rashaan Evans. I saw a little bit of a film on him. He's right about the guy. He does play real physical. He gets to the ball. He's actually pretty he's well studied. You could tell he comes out of a good system, Alabama. They know how to play ball. They don't overreact to stuff. He kind of keeps himself where he keeps his position pretty well. And he's got good size. I think he's listed 6'3". He might be 235, 240, somewhere around there. I might be wrong. Be wrong on that. But yeah, man, he shows speed. He definitely has talent. He has a nose for the ball. He makes plays, man. He makes plays even in coverage. So I'm not mad at that. But he would also be a guy I would like to get lucky on in the second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Also, 303 called in. Good takes on Marshawn Lynch right there. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I personally would like to see Lynch come back. I think even at 32, he's got a lot left in the tank. But you're right. It's not a 3-down back. And $6 million is a bit steep for a player that age with the production that he had last year. Now, he was outstanding on our offense last year, but the offense was dog shit.
Yeah, not outstanding.
And we would have liked to see higher numbers. So who knows? Repaired again with Tom Cable could be a nice recipe for success. But taking a pay cut would be nice, or reloading that value into his contract in the form of incentives. I wouldn't mind paying him as long as it pays off on the field.
Right.
So there's some options there. We'll see. Reggie's not a big restructure guy, so that remains to be seen. But if he wants to do the team a favor and restructure, maybe something down to $4 million, I'm sold on that. So what's your number on Lynch? 4, 5? Pay him $6? What do you do?
I haven't really thought about that. I just thought that it would be nice to keep him for the right number. I would say 6. 6 would be decent.
So keep him right where he's at.
Keep him where he's at, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. You think it should be restructured?
I think so. I mean, I think you should take.
Well, obviously we need money, so I can see the reason for that.
We need money,
but can you really come at the guy and tell him to drop a couple million? I don't know if that's realistic.
I don't know. Maybe pay him in the form of a bonus. I don't know how all that works. We need to get Rory back on here right now. But no, I think 303 makes good points. I think we are cash strapped, and it's a bit steep for a guy. But then do you get rid of Lynch and take your chances on a rookie, bringing him in, or bringing in a free agent right now? That pool is kind of thin. Dion Lewis has been floated around a bit. So I don't know though.
I don't know that that's the kind of back that we need. If we're gonna lose, if Lynch is the one that goes, right? Dion Lewis would make sense if Washington or Rashard went, because that's that type of back. You know?
The other guy that's out there is Blount. I believe he's still a free agent. So he's maybe the guy that replaces Lynch, but I'm not hearing our name attached to him at all, which could mean absolutely nothing.
And how much cheaper would they come?
Right.
That's the other thing, right? If we're really trying to save money, I don't know that they come any cheaper than him.
It's true. The other caller, I'd be remiss not to mention, is JFB, frequent caller to the show, great personality, hot take, Mr. Hot Take himself, and he laced you with that John Von Condovi tag. So JFB surprised actually to kind of hear that he's sad to see John Kondo go, but he makes a lot of good points, but paying him a ridiculous amount of money to do what he does and no longer. So frees up some space there. And the end of an era, as it were. If it seemed like your call was cut off, JFB, I don't know if you got cut off, if you ended abruptly, but our Google Voice system tends to do that on folks.
Sometimes.
Don't take it personally, but I do edit the calls at times to make it sound a little bit more natural.
A little cleaner.
Happened last week, happened to a few of our callers last week.
Yeah, I did.
And if it happens to you, just like Gent did, just call back.
Yeah.
Just call back. We'll
sure.
put it on there. But anyways, appreciate all the callers. If you listen to the show frequently and you haven't called in, I strongly urge you to call in, even if you got to write your take down, which, not my favorite thing to do. But hey, pop the cherry. Get in here one time and you'll get in here again. I guarantee you. We always like hearing new voices. So Texas Raider, we appreciate you calling.
Yeah, man.
And repping the Raider Nation down there in Houston.
The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, man.
Right. I'm starting to see a theme. We got Gent calling in from KC. 303 calling in from Denver. Texas Raider, obviously calling in from Texas. Yeah. JFB, he's out there in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Raider Nation's worldwide.
Worldwide. So it's a worldwide phenomenon.
So is the Pillaging podcast.
This is true.
And we have not heard from London Owl in a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hope you're listening.
London Owl. Call in next week. And we did not hear from Plunk this week, so I'm a little disappointed in that. But, again, appreciate everybody that's calling in. So those are your phone calls, and we're about to get to Cain's Corner.
Yes.
And this week, I hand off the torch to Che. He's gonna run this segment, bro.
Okay.
It's your time.
All right.
Yeah.
My time to shine.
I am older than you, so someone's got to take this thing over when I pass away into the great silver and black cloud in the sky.
Hey, you're in good health, man. You're in good health.
I'm doing all right.
You've lost more weight than I have.
It's true.
So.
Yeah. Hey. Anyway. Let's get out of here. Really short break, and we'll come back with Cain's Corner.
Yeah.
All right, we got Cain's Corner, brought to you every week by NFLshop.com. Make sure you go to pj4f.com and click through that banner. Everything you buy through that banner, we get a little piece of the puzzle, a little piece of the pie, I should say.
We finally got her.
And that helps keep our pirate ship afloat on the water as we're sailing the high seas of this 2018 Raiders offseason. So without further ado, Raider Cain. How you doing, Cain?
I'm doing good, my brothers. How y'all doing today?
Feeling good, man. Just another day in paradise,
There you go.
Yeah.
It's nice weather, too, man. So
it
kind of felt like paradise today.
The weather's it's about time, man. I was wondering why it's been so cold, man. You know what I'm saying? It's been a little too cold for me, man. And when it get into the 40s, it's like, whoosh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So what's up, man? Che's going to run this segment. Che.
Yeah. So we got some questions to fire at you, Cain. We got some questions here. Obviously, today was a big day in the NFL. Not necessarily for the Raiders, but there was some big moves made, man. So, in your opinion, of all the big moves that were made today, and possible big moves that are to come in the future, which move was the biggest? Whose involvement might have surprised you the most? And who came out the biggest winner out of today?
I'm gonna say the Rams. They added another quality cornerback to their roster and Akeem Talib. So, they pair him with Marcus Peters, and that looks pretty scary on paper.
Yeah.
So until any games are played, I'm gonna have to say the Rams are winning right now in the AFC West.
Yeah. For sure.
Or the NFC West. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Who surprised you, though? Was there a move that surprised you?
Actually, that move surprised me. I was expecting Denver to just release Talib. I didn't think they would trade. It's a lot of trades going on. It's a little abnormal for the NFL right now.
Yeah.
It's a lot of trading going on, a lot of players trading, and that hasn't happened in a long time. So, seeing that trade go down and Edgar Bennett, getting traded to the Eagles, that was surprising. Just a lot of player movement, via trade.
Yeah.
That in itself is different, at this time of year.
Let me chime in really quick, because what I think is also interesting about this Rams situation is you got Peters and you got Talib now, and you got Tremaine Johnson, right, exiting, who's set to make probably about $13.5 million on his next contract. But if you put Peters and Talib's contracts together, they add up to about $13.5 million.
Wow. So
not only the Rams come up on two good players, but that's an incredible salary cap move right there.
Yeah, man. They did some damn things.
They did the damn thing.
They did some damn things. Man.
They did. They made it. They look scary, like I said, on paper. They look, they're, and I'm thinking about it, like their defense has got like a thug mentality. You know what I mean? With those two guys, and then you got the Aaron Donald or the guy in the middle. What's the defensive tackle? Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a defense that look pretty. You wouldn't want to go into a dark alley with. Put it like that.
Right. And our neighbors, they got to go see those guys twice this year. Yeah,
I hope they beat them up real good too. That'd be nice.
We do got to play the Rams in Oakland this year, so that's the return of Talib in Oakland. The guy
and Marcus Peters.
Yeah, and Marcus Peters. The guy I want to ask how they feel about this is Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
Because he's got to be sweating it.
Yeah, right. He can't be feeling too good, man.
True, right?
Not too confident. But anyways,
they already had a good defense anyway, so yeah, I get it. But yeah, the Rams came out on top. They doing the damn thing. They was already doing the damn thing, but now they doing the damn thing for real.
Yes, They are, man. Yes, they are. So, like I mentioned, the Raiders did nothing. This was a big day for a lot of other teams, but not the Raiders, and we're sadly becoming accustomed to that. Are you disappointed that you didn't hear the Raiders' name in any of these moves today?
You know what, Che? I really wasn't, because like you said, we've grown accustomed to Reggie moving methodically slow in free agency. And rightfully so. And like I said, we still have a really young roster. So I would think that if they are going to go after somebody, it ain't going to be a bunch of people, maybe one or two people. I don't know why everybody thinks we're finna load up, in free agency when A, we've never really done that.
Right.
And B, we still have a very fairly young team, and we only need probably, if you ask me, if you're going to sign somebody in free agency, maybe Bowman, and you re-sign Carey, re-sign Autry, and I'm not even really sold on re-signing Carey, but everybody else is. So, go re-sign Carey, re-sign Autry, and bring back Bowman, and maybe go after Tremaine Johnson. I mean, if that's what you want to do in free agency with a corner. I hear that Richard Sherman might be getting cut, but I would stay away from him.
Okay.
He's coming off two Achilles surgeries, and one happened in December. I believe it was December. So I would stay away from him. I don't think I would mess with anything coming out of Seattle right now. Those guys are getting old. I mean, unless you're gonna draft a DB.
Okay.
I wouldn't. If you're gonna sign somebody, you need to sign a 26, 27, somebody on their second contract. So then that avoids you from having to draft a cornerback in that first round. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
I'm as far as the Raiders not doing nothing, I don't think they're gonna do much. I really don't.
Okay. You kind of went into my next question. I was just about to touch on the fact that Seattle has basically made the decision. They're in full on rebuild mode.
Fire sale.
They're having a fire sale, man. So they send Bennett. We They sent Bennett to Philly. Sherman wants out. Avril's not happy with any of the stuff that's going on, and they're shopping Thomas. They're taking offers for Thomas. My question was going to be, if you had your pick, if you had your choice to grab anybody off of that defense, who would it be? Or are you set with? Are you cool with not touching any of those guys, even the guys that even ain't being mentioned currently?
If I was gonna touch anybody off that defense, it'd probably be Earl Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Earl. Maybe Cam Chancellor, but we got safeties.
Right.
I mean, to bring them in to school KJ and Obi and Luwani, Earl Thomas wouldn't be bad. Other than that, Cliff Averill is old. He contemplating retirement. Like I said, Richard Sherman is injured, and they traded away the guy you would want is Bennett.
Right.
So yeah, I pretty much wouldn't touch it. Even like I said, even the unmentioned people, maybe Earl Thomas. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. I have to agree. I was telling Kenny. I did it again.
Damn government.
The damn government. We're gonna have to get that in post. I was telling Kenny the one guy that if I had my choice, I would take Chancellor also, man. Just because I like his style, man. I like the way he plays the game. But you're absolutely right. We have two safeties. We have two young safeties, and really we would only need a veteran just to coach them up, school them up, because we're not looking for something long term. We're hoping that they're the long term.
Exactly. I agree. And the only thing they got really, like I said, is the safeties and Edgar Bennett. Would you go after Sherman right at this point in his career with the injuries lingering?
It's questionable for sure because of the injuries, like you said. But if you could get him at a cheap price, a lot of people are saying that he's not going to cost a whole lot because of for those very same reasons. And so if you can get him cheap, other people are talking about maybe having him switch to a safety, maybe giving up on corner, and making that transition to safety as well. Unlike a Raider legend in Charles Woodson.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, like I said, he's coming off the two Achilles. I just don't want to mess with that right now. Our whole DB corp was injured last year. I don't want to bring that bad mojo or that bad dust over this way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can see Seattle trying to go a different route anyway. They're trying to go younger. They like you said, they're in full rebuild mode. And normally when that happens, they lose in confidence, and obviously the players still gonna want to get paid. But is he gonna be able to make it through a whole season? Is he gonna be able to play on that foot? Come June, come July, August, when it's time to learn a new system, you're trying to learn to be a safety. Are you gonna be healthy enough? That's a lot of questions bringing in Richard Sherman. That's not a safe move at this point. If you're going to do that, you might as well, like I said, draft one of these young guys and take your chances going that route.
True.
So,
yeah. Again, I can't disagree with that, man. Can't disagree with that. And you're absolutely right. Like, you got to question what's Seattle's seeing that's making them say, you know what, it's time to give up on this and start over. Maybe they're seeing, last year the defense was still considered one of the best defenses in the league. But maybe they're starting to see a trend in the players and the injuries and the age, and you're absolutely right. Maybe you got to stay away from that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man. If you're gonna sign somebody in free agency, a cornerback, I guess it would have to be Jermaine Johnson. Even though I'm against even signing. I'm against signing a cornerback. I want to draft one. So it's a lot of. Watching the combine, man, it's a lot of good DVs coming out right now. Now's the time, to draft 2 or 3 DVs, and you can get some depth, and a couple starters maybe out of this draft.
Yeah, if you're looking at 2 or 3 DBs, which are your 2 that you're looking to get, and what rounds do you think you're getting them?
Obviously, I've been wanting Ward. Obviously, Denzel Ward, if he's there with the 10th pick, obviously we need to take him. And then I'm looking at for some depth or special team player who actually was really good. He was a really good safety, and I think he can convert to DB in the NFL. Is Troy Apke from Penn State.
You know what? He caught my eye too, man. I was watching the combine, and he kind of stood out.
He stood out in all his drills and everything. He stood out, and he's fast. He run a 4.32.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So 40. So
and he's big, man. He's a big tall dude.
And I watched film on this guy, man. He can lay the wood. You know what I mean? And Penn State had a good defense. They wasn't just all Saquon Barkley,
right?
So that's one of the guys to look at that I saw. And off the top of my head, I can't really think, but there was a couple of other guys who were going to be there in maybe the third or fourth, or the fifth, or one of the. You got like six round picks. Why not use one of them to draft Apke and another DB? And then use so. That's just where I want to go right now.
You think
it's a good year for DBs? Yeah.
You think Apke? You think Apke's there that late?
I do. I think there's a lot of good DBs that's ahead of him, man. That's coming out. There was 87, 88 defensive backs at the combine.
Damn,
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I didn't know that was the number.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a loaded draft for the corner position, for just defensive backs in general. There's a lot of guys. That's where I'm hoping that we can get somebody in the second round that slips down there. A guy like Carlton Davis or Jair Alexander. Yeah. Alexander had injury history, was projected as one of the top corners in this draft. And on some lists, he still is. But if he falls to the second, that's a guy that I think we can get potentially at value there in the second round, or maybe even trade back in further into the second and pick him up if he happens to fall there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of great talent, and you can make an argument for all of these corners in the draft. My gut feeling is we don't go corner first round again back to back. I think we're going to address either linebacker or defensive line. Mm-hmm. But again, like I said, a lot of these guys are really talented. I was high on Joshua Jackson when this offseason started. Again, I think he's probably projected around 18 to 20. So where we're at, that's a reach. Cain brings up Denzel Ward. He's up there for sure. He's in a lot of people's top 10, top 15. A lot of these guys, very talented. Wouldn't be shocked to see him go that way, but my gut tells me that we're not going to go corner in the first. And if one of these guys, can slip, you were saying off air earlier, a lot of wacky stuff started happening in the first round last year, exactly. And it didn't fall the way we thought it could. And this year, if that were to happen, that can only benefit us.
Yeah, there was some people that were available last year that we didn't think were going to be available. Reuben Foster comes to mind. We passed up on him, right? But he was there, and we didn't expect him to be there. So anything can happen, man, because it all depends on what the first 5 teams do. And if they don't draft accordingly, then that totally changes up the field, for everybody else.
Absolutely. It's like I said, man, this is a year to get a DB, and honestly, Jay, I think that the Raiders, if Denzel Ward is there, you take him. That's the only cornerback that I would take in the top 10. What another position that's really heavy or loaded is the linebacker position. It's a lot of linebackers coming out. It's a lot of defensive ends, a lot of defensive tackles. So, they can be going in this first round, they can be real creative with what they do. Just put it like that. There could be any number. They can go running back. Right. I think Darius Geis is worth the number 10 pick. That's just me.
Yeah.
I think and with John Gruden being an offensive minded guy, who's to say we don't draft a wide receiver early in the second or third round? I mean, who's to say we don't do just a whole totally different thing in this draft than what we did, because we had 2 defensive-minded people with Reggie McKenzie and Jack Del Rio in the room together. Now you got John in there, and he's going to be looking at his offense and what he can do to pump that offense up. You know what I'm saying? Maybe get a receiver to replace Michael Crabtree, you know, and a running back, because Marshawn Lynch is only going to give us maybe one more good year. So you can look at all options. But me personally, if Denzel Ward is there at number 10, you absolutely take him without a doubt. You run to the podium with your card and take that. You don't. That's a talent you don't paddle. This kid can do everything. He can play the slot. He can play it outside. He can do everything. He can play bail technique. He can play up on you. He can bump and run. He can do everything. And that's the same thing with Gary and Conley. And I keep telling you, if you put those two together, you're gonna have the best defensive backfield or a top 5 DB tandem in the NFL for years to come. So if he's not there, I don't want a linebacker. I want to go defensive tackle or maybe running back.
As long as we don't draft another linebacker from Alabama, I'm good. I'm good.
We're still scarred from that.
I'm trying to think of, other than Reuben Foster and Miles Jack, who was the last linebackers to come out that's really crushing it, other than those two?
Oh, you mean like top-rated guy?
That came out in the first round, like came out in the top 10 or top first round or whatever, the top round, the top of the draft. I can only think of those two. With the last time we drafted a linebacker with the 7th pick, he ain't even playing football no more.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I really just don't want to draft a linebacker. It's taboo for me. It's too many. You can sign Bowman and work with this, you know, get these other young guys that we got time to and see what they do under this new coaching staff. And that's another thing. I'm sorry to go back to your first question. Why we haven't done anything is because the team is young. Remember I said earlier a while back, we on another show we were doing, I said this team is young, and I think the coaches want to see what they can do with this young team.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Reggie been building the defense. This defense is young. So, you know, add one or two more little pieces to it, and you got a defense. It just needs coaching.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know?
So you had mentioned linebacker and you had mentioned corner, both deep in this draft. The other position very deep in this draft seemingly is running back. So out of the running back crew that's in there, a lot of these highly touted guys, Sony Mitchell, Saquon Barkley's probably, definitely gone by the time he gets there. Rashad Penny, Jones. Who's the guy that jumps out to you? Who's the guy that you would take out of this running back crew?
Other than Barkley, obviously, Darius Geis, Kerryon Johnson looks like for sure.
Kerryon Johnson, he's at TCU?
Auburn.
Who's the guy
Auburn.
at TCU? He looked kind of good too. Big guy.
I can't think of his name right now. And I've seen him play a lot too.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll be doing the combine and the draft stuff, so we'll be schooled up on those names, those people.
Yeah. Sorry, people. We getting into an area we ain't studied for, but yeah,
we're still doing homework, man.
Yeah, the guy with TCU is pretty good, but off the top of my head, Kenny,
Hicks?
I like Kerryon Johnson and Darius Geis. What do you guys think about those two running backs in the top 2 or 3 rounds?
I like Geis. I think Johnson probably falls. If Johnson's there in the 3rd, I wouldn't be terribly mad about that. But Geis definitely a big value if he does fall to the 2nd. That's a guy that I like. I also like Penny. His run after contact number pretty high. I think he's like 3.34 when getting hit at the line or behind the line. So Penny's a guy that I like. I also like Geis. Jones was the guy that I was looking at, but he's big, he's physical, but he just doesn't have the speed to really sell me there. So Geis and Penny are my 2 guys right now. Those are the guys that I'd like to see us pick up. One of the 2, obviously not both of them.
Yeah, I'd be okay if Geis fell to the 2nd. I would definitely
And Sony
jump on that.
Mitchell. Sony Mitchell. I think if he's there in the second round, Sony Mitchell would be a great pickup. How many of these guys get out of the first round is going to be interesting. I think a lot of them do. I don't think teams are going to take that many running backs in the first. We saw guys fall last year.
Right.
And I think it's a good chance some of them fall to the third. The third round is my running back round this year, and I'm hoping one of the corners slip to the second again, and going defensive line or linebacker in the first. That's the way I see this draft falling to us. I think that you can get a guy like Denzel Ward in the first, but you're able to sort of extend the value of your draft picks. If you pass on a corner in the first, there's a lot of them there. They're going to fall out to the second round. It's about getting one of those impact guys up on the front seven in the first for me, because I think it does, even though there's talent, it drops off considerably after the first round. You're going to get guys that are good, that are solid, but the playmakers as far as the defensive line or the linebacker position, those guys live in the first round, and you get a couple guys maybe that slip through to the second and possibly running back out to the third. So again, it could go really wacky. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I think all the names that everyone in here in this room on this podcast right now is throwing out, I wouldn't be mad at any of them. It seems to be a very loaded draft this
And
year.
as time goes by, there's going to be more and more names that we're throwing out there too. So
So stay tuned for that. But Cain, man, it's great having you on. You got any plans lined up for this weekend? I know you've been doing a lot of traveling. Is Cain traveling this weekend?
No, man, I'm not this weekend, my brother. I'm just staying at home, man. I'm just gonna rest up and get ready to. I got this next week is my last week here. Then I'll be starting over at the my new job, and one of them, and then so I'm just gonna rest up this weekend and try to just prepare my mind and body for this new venture out here, new employment venture.
Word up,
That's
man.
about it. What about you? What about you guys?
I got my daughter coming in on Sunday, so I got visitation with my daughter, so that's gonna be good, and be getting ready for that. Be doing some shopping, probably some grocery shopping and
There you
stuff. Nothing real wild. Did you make it out to Indianapolis last week? Did you make it out to Indy?
I did not.
Yeah, I knew you were on standby Friday, and it got pushed to Saturday, and that it just didn't line up for you. It sounds like.
No, it was a lot of people traveling that, they got one flight a day on that airline.
Oh wow!
And it goes there and then it turns around and who's ever there brings you back. So if you fly in on that particular airline, that you're going to fly out of Indy later on. You know what I'm saying? On that same plane that flew you in. So that flight was just booked up. It was a lot of people. Obviously, the combine was going on. And it was just a lot of traveling. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. I posted up in front of my TV and pretty much kept my TV on 24/7, and I watched a lot of the players and saw a lot of good players, man. A lot of good players.
Yeah,
so I'm excited. I'm excited to do our draft edition with y'all, or whenever that happens. I got some players I think that the Raiders need to take a look at late in the draft, because we got those 6-round picks, and those 6-round picks are going to be important. Those 6-round picks, you could possibly this year at certain positions, you may be able to get rotational players you can put in there that can start, players that can play special teams, that's going to make the roster. So for me, the 6th round is very important in this year's draft. So I'm excited to talk about it, and I'm excited to get the players out here and see what we can do.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on again, man. We'll talk to you. Actually, we won't talk to you next week. Next week's going to be our first best of show. So I got a couple of throwbacks on there, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. It looks like.
Oh wow! So we get a little bit of a vacation here, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unpaid.
All right, boss man. You cutting us some slack this next week, man.
This will be unpaid vacation though, so don't get mad at me. Take it up with your union rep if you got an issue with that.
Hey, man, it's always good to get slid an off day, man. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. So enjoy your Thursday night next week, and get ready for some throwback episode.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. All right, it's good to talk to y'all. And everybody follow me on Twitter at Cain MT6, and I will talk to everybody in 2 weeks. And Kay and Chinny, love y'all, brothers, and I'll talk to y'all in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother.
Peace.
All right.
That's
Peace.
right. Follow that man. Follow that man.
Yes.
Yep. So that was good. That was a good talk. A lot of good takes there. A lot of differences of opinions, but it's like I've said, there's so much talent flying around. It's hard to be mad at someone with a different opinion.
It's hard to be wrong.
It's hard to be wrong.
Yeah.
So I mean, it appears to be a very loaded draft. We'll
Right.
see how these guys wash up when they get to the NFL. But the other guy we haven't mentioned is Shaquem Griffin,
Yeah, man.
who single-handedly
literally
dominated
Nice.
the combine.
nice.
Shout out to Andrea if you're listening. I straight up stole that from you. But yeah, Griffin, man, what a cool story, huh?
Man, that was crazy. He put up that what was it? 4.38.
Yeah,
40.
faster than Jones.
Yeah, man. He shocked everybody with that one.
Yep.
His second 40 wasn't as fast. It was a pretty big disparity.
Yeah,
But still, man, he put up that 4.38. He put up 20 reps on the
Yeah.
bench.
Yep.
With a prosthetic.
yeah,
Dude.
crazy.
Yeah, man, crazy.
Somebody brought it up that his peanut punch in the NFL would be something wicked.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
you know, I feel like it could be a benefit to be able to punch the ball out, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like other people, you know, like
Yeah.
the hand can get in the way. You leave your hand open, you know,
Yeah.
you got to straight away punch the ball. So,
Interesting.
hey, you know, no offense. Like honestly, we're not making fun in any.
No, it is
like,
what it
I
is.
literally think that
Yeah.
it could actually be beneficial to
Right.
punch out the ball, cause some turnovers, man.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
Now that dude, yeah, inspirational, man. I was listening to a podcast. I think I was listening to Fighter and the Kid, and they were talking about him. They were going off on him, and Brian Callen was like, "I need to get in the NFL now. What the hell am I doing with my life? I need to start working out." It's like, what excuse do I have? Yeah.
So I was reading about how he actually lost his hand. The amniotic sac wrapped around it while he was in his mom's womb with his twin brother, who's actually on the Seattle Seahawks. But it wrapped around his wrist, and they tried to fix it, but it was the risk was too great, so it was amputated, and that's the way he's been since birth. So
the other story that I heard about him too is that when he was originally signed to the college that he went to, the whole mindset of the college was that we're gonna sign this guy so we can lure his brother here. And then they realized, oh, crap, this dude can play. We got to get him on the field. They were using him as a lure, and then they realized they actually got a dude that could play. So, like I said, man, it's a great story, and it really seems like his NFL dreams are going to come true, man. And who knows? Maybe the story doesn't end there, man.
Yeah.
You know, I know that would be like a great highlight and a great way to like end the film, right? If it was a movie, he makes it to the NFL. But who knows, man? Maybe he's more than people are giving him. You know?
yeah, I think so, man. I don't think the story ends there. It's just too good to stop right there.
Yeah, right.
But it's time for I See You.
I see you.
So this week's I See You is JFB, Just Fire Baby.
Yeah.
Returns. You heard him in the call-in segment. You got to hear about him again. So his take today, Marshawn Lynch from Oakland, DeMarco Murray from Las Vegas. We know what we need to do here. Cut one and add the other, just like the cities. Ouch. Hot take. That burned me for sure. I know some people on it. Listen, phone's out the window.
Phone's out the window, man. Broken screens. Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to pass on DeMarco Murray. We already talked about it.
I'm a huge pass on DeMarco Murray.
I'm going to pass on DeMarco Murray.
Not an upgrade. Not an upgrade at all.
And the Raiders moving to Vegas. New stadium makes me happy. Changing locations, not happy.
Not so happy.
And we talked about that too. So,
Yeah.
So, let's do some shout-outs.
Shout-outs.
You ready?
I'm ready, man.
You ready?
I'm ready, man.
All right, man. Shout out to PJ Kaz, Richard Oliver, Chevy guy. I'm a Chevy guy, even though I drive a Mazda. Figure that out. Shout out to Sith Lord, R.I.P. Pops, Ant, Raider Reaction, Salt Lake City Silver and Black, Cobos, D-Time 1021, Jamie Randall, and Danny De La Vega on Twitter. Shout out to Raiders Just Win Baby 03, Ryan Bubness, Guapoli 23, Real Damn Peter, Insta Goldengram, and Slick Boy 00 on IG. Again, shout out to Chris C, Juice 25, Dennis Gerard, Puget Zoo, Jeremy Hernandez, Raider Vegan, I don't know. Raider Vegan. I'm going with that. 3 Ring Raiders, El Professor 444, and Down South Eskimo on YouTube. Shout out to all of our callers, Texas Raider, Gent 303 Raider, JFB. And, of course, thank you and shout out to tonight's guest, Dieter Kurtenbach. And as always, shout out to Raider Cain and shout out to you, my brother.
Shout out to you, brother.
Well, shout out back to you again. Yeah, you had me all speechless right there. Well, yeah, man, it's been good. Another monster show. This is going to be a long one. So, and after this, we got to get on. We got to get right back on it and do our intros for the best of segment this week.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Late night.
Put it in the work for you guys, man. We put in hours.
It's a damn work night too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you going to work tomorrow?
I got to.
Yeah, me too.
Got no choice.
I got to too.
Although, I'll be up probably about. I looked at my wrist. I don't even have a watch.
Yeah,
I'll be up at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning with
damn,
baby.
Bro. You're a real one.
Because she likes to wake up. She likes to keep daddy up, for a couple hours and then decides, all right, I'll go back to sleep now.
You know what, Che?
You the real MVP.
I haven't heard that one in a while.
Thank you, brother. No, we haven't heard that one.
Yeah. So obviously MVP trash can segment. If you're new to the show, that'll be coming back regular season. So stay tuned for that. I'm staring at this mashup somebody posted of John Gruden and Mark Davis. They put Gruden's face inside of Mark. It's very disturbing.
Body, face, head.
And the peach colored, apricot colored, salmon colored, whatever you want to call it, sweater. This is very disturbing. This is nightmare fuel right here. So yeah. And also I wanted to give a very, very, very special shout out to one of our longtime bloggers, Dirt Lot Football.
Yeah.
He's been extremely generous this whole time with donations. And as you guys know, if you've been listening a while, he's the one that hooked us up with tickets to the KC game, the Thursday night game this last year. We'll be doing a tailgate, and he's been very generous to us. Basically, I don't want to give away too much, but making it possible for us to tailgate nearly every single home game this year and broadcast.
Amazing, man.
From those tailgates.
Amazing.
So if you go to the home games, check us out. We'll be out there in it's not D lot. What is that right next to D lot? Is that A lot? I think that's A lot. We'll be out there
in that area,
adjacent to D lot as you come down the bridge, coming down the ramp from BART. You'll see us out there. We'll be parked probably out in the corner, front row. Check for the table and the banner, Pillaging Podcast.
Oh yeah. We're gonna be visible.
Yeah, come say what's up. You want to get on the mic? We'll put you on air.
We'll put you on the mic.
Yeah. So we're talking about it. We might split up the show next year. Might be doing a reaction show before game, after game show that's live from the Coliseum, and then coming at you with our normal Thursday show recap, getting you ready for the upcoming game. So we'll see
when our voices have returned.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of which, we're actually going to reset that show on the best of.
Oh yeah.
We got I think 3 or 4 segments that are going to be on that show. So if you're new to the show and you haven't gone back and listened to the old episodes, we're going to give you some throwbacks, some of our favorite segments from the past year and a half or so that we've been on the air here.
Yeah. Hey, and don't be afraid to share your opinion on maybe what should be on the next best stuff, because we'll need to have one in the future.
Yeah, longtime listeners let us know. These are the standard. I thought about spreading them out, but I was like, nah, let's just put our favorites right up front, because we don't know how many of these best ofs we're going to do, but it'll be something we do. It'll be something. We might even reset an entire episode at one point. Who knows? Who knows? Might be interesting to compare kind of like where we started and where we're at now. Yeah. It's definitely, show's grown a lot, and you still have our listeners, and we appreciate that.
Well, like I was talking about earlier, the anniversary of my joining the show is coming up here real soon, man.
Yeah.
I started up with the draft last year.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
So here we are again, man.
And it all came together, and we brought Cain back into the fold. Now it's a 3-headed monster, and this is rolling.
Getting it done.
It's rolling. So with that said, again, thanks to Dieter Kurtenbach for coming on tonight, and look forward to hearing from him again in the future. And that's it for this week's show. So tune in every week on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, YouTube. Hey, wherever podcasts are found.
Everywhere.
You're going to find us. Go over to pj4f.com/shop. Get yourself a brand new Pillaging t-shirt. Hopefully we get a new design to you guys soon. I'm working with Creative Media Monterey over there on that. And yeah, man, that's it for this week's show.
Yeah.
Feel good?
I feel great.
All right.
I feel great.
We out.
Peace.
Go Raiders.
Just win, baby.